and I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hello, Coos County. Hello, Oregon. Thank you for joining me today. We've got a really good interview here with Charles Kopke-Hales. Boy, that's a tough name. Patrick Hales. I'm sorry, Patrick Kopke-Hales. And I got an interview with him about a week ago, maybe a little bit longer, and I've been meaning to play it, but I'm at the headquarters getting signatures while I'm doing this live broadcast. And anyone who's listening, we are going to be open from 2 to 6, Monday through Friday, except for Thursday. It's Thanksgiving Day. And we will be here 2 to 6, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to get signatures. I'm not even sure if we're going to be in on Friday or Saturday since it's a holiday weekend. We've been doing so good at collecting signatures. I don't even know if it's worth it. But because people are tired. People want to celebrate. They want to eat their turkey. They want to spend time with their relatives. I know I do. And we may have to set the petition aside for a couple of days, and that's okay. We'll get right back to it because we've been tearing it up here in Coos County. We've well than more met our obligation for the state. I'm not sure exactly how many signatures they were planning on getting Coos County, but the guy who's running this, the county captain for the Stop the Gas Tax petition, has said that we have already matched or met that quota. And that's really great, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going because we really want to stick it in the eye of this governor. She's not a good governor. And I don't normally do this. I don't normally talk about people in the business unless they've done something incredible. Jeff Krupp. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Jeff Krupp. He has a radio station up in Salem. He's been on the radio a long time. If you can catch his podcast from this morning, he did an excellent show talking about Christine Drazen. I agree with him full-heartedly. I haven't endorsed anyone for governor yet. I will be interviewing hopefully all of the candidates. I hope I can talk to Christine Drazen. I hope she has the ability to come on this show and talk to my audience as well. And this is something, we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep fighting for. Like I said, I'm here at the headquarters. You can come down and sign a petition right now and listen to the interview. I'm going to be playing that for the next hour or so because it was a pretty good interview with Patrick and we had a lot to discuss. I think his candidacy for governor adds to the race. I think more choices are always better than fewer choices. And so I hope you enjoy this. Once again, this is my interview with governor candidate Patrick Kopke-Hales, and here he is. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining me. I've got a great governor candidate joining us today, and he's going to talk about why he's running for governor and what he's going to do about many of the problems that we have here in Oregon. His name is Patrick Kopke-Hales, and I hope I said that correctly.
Well, we'll go with close enough.
Okay, cool. Hales. Is that it? How do you pronounce that?
Well, yeah, we'll go with it. It's pronounced Kopke, like a cop and a key.
Kopke-Hales,
Yeah.
Patrick Kopke-Hales.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Patrick, we've been trying to make this interview happen for many years now, and for some reason we haven't been able to do it. And I've got you here. Tell me why are you running for governor in such a crazy time as in what we have going on right now in Oregon?
Well, over the past decade or so, we can go back 40 years if we really wanted to, but I just noticed the decline in Oregon and how Oregon looked, for families, for people that live here to work, to live, to be able to not just survive, but to actually live their lives. And back in March, I felt a feeling come over me that I needed to do something, and so I started digging into the budget, going, "Oh, this is absolutely nuts." It's right there before that ODOT stuff came out and some of the other stuff. And I'm going, this ain't going to work. We're getting to the point where taxation is greater than our employment in Oregon, meaning we're taking so much in taxes that it's killing employment here in Oregon. Then I started looking at all the other factors that started factoring into it, not just taxes, but the regulatory controls that we have in Oregon that just has devastated our industries here. I mean, we have businesses that are closing, from mom and pops all the way up to big business. They're leaving the state, like Tektronix that used to be out in Beaverton, Dutch Brothers that took their corporate headquarters and ran off to Arizona.
Yeah.
And a lot of our high tech is cutting back on jobs. And just the other day, I saw Wells Fargo is cutting 444 jobs in Oregon alone. And I'm like, we can't sustain this. We got a small group of people in Oregon that are working who are paying 98% of all the taxes in Oregon. I kind of do it like that. I kind of run an analogy with a pizza. Well, the more people you have paying in for the pizza, the cheaper it gets. But when you only have one person paying for that whole pizza, it's kind of expensive, So I just got that feeling back in March to make a change. And now I filed, I've got my PAC, which is Great Oregon PAC, number 234538. And here I am. I mean, I'm fighting for truth, justice, and the American way out here in Grant County in every way that I can, and putting out information. People want answers, so I give them answers. People want solutions to the problem, so I give them solutions. This is what I want to do. And that's how I've just been going at it. I've just been putting out information. I mean, you've read some of it yourself, I'm sure. But, we need a different way of doing things. We need a leader. And we need someone who can lead Oregon into the future, because we've got new technology that is coming out. We're going to be AI and robotics in the next 5 years, and people are going to be losing a lot of jobs. So we have to start in our education. We have to get our schools up to date with technology and everything else. And we're so far behind the 8 ball here that they can only see just a short distance down the road. They're not looking at the long haul and the foresight and forethought of what is going to be happening in the future. And I've got plans that can address all of that, but we need to have jobs. I want to create school to work programs. I want to lower taxes on people. I want to incentivize businesses to come back to Oregon. And one of those things that I want to incentivize is our timber industry. Oregon used to be the number one timber exporter in the world, and now we're not. As I was telling you just a little bit ago, Oregon used to be 12 to 15% of our GDP was timber industry, and it brought in between $5 and $6 billion a year. Now we're lucky if we're getting 1.5 billion, and it's only equates to maybe 1% of our GDP. We need to bring back sustainable forestry because it is a renewable resource. We need to mitigate fires by thinning and selective clear cutting so we can actually start to manage our forests better, so we're not having these hot, long fires that cost us anywhere from 500 million to 1.5 billion dollars every year. So
Right.
we've got to start doing things different. We don't have leadership right now. We've not really had leadership in probably close to 40 years. Our last governor was Vicatia, and he was a decent governor, but we have not had that in so long. I'm a military veteran, so I was taught leadership from day one. I went to leadership school. I've been in logistics. I've been in IT. I've been in construction. And now I'm a state certified mental health counselor for veterans and first responders and a volunteer firefighter. So there's me.
It sounds like you're quite well accomplished. And the thing that we were talking about before I started the recording is that you live in Grant County. You were saying that right now they have 7,200 residents. By the end of the year, you're going to probably have about 7,000 residents. That's an incredible amount of few people out there. You've got more cows and sheep than you have people. And my question to you, sir, is how do you plan on winning a gubernatorial candidacy when you are in a county that has such few people? I mean, it just seems like it's going to be relatively a monumental task for you to achieve that.
Well, it is a monumental task, but I'm up for it. But also, I was actually born in the other side of the state. I actually was born in Portland. I cringe at the thought today, but I grew up in Beaverton, Tualatin, Tigard, Sherwood, Newburgh. I've lived in Vancouver. I've lived in Battleground. I've lived in Rainier, Oregon. I've lived in Scappoose, Oregon. Lived in Longview, Washington. So I've lived all around Portland my entire life, and the Willamette Valley. And I used to, as a truck driver, I've been up and down all over Oregon. So I'm familiar with every part of it. And I've got family down on the southern Oregon coast. I've got friends that live out on the coast. And I've got friends that live over in Ontario. So, and Hermiston, Pendleton. I have people all over the state who are really pulling for me, who are helping me. So it's not, I live out here in Grant County, but I've got friends that are in Madras and Bend and Chiloquin and Klamath Falls. So I've got quite the group of people that around the state that are helping. So that helps a lot. They're helping put out the information. They're helping me set up things so I can get and to talk to people. So it's hard from Grant County, yes, but when you have connections like that and people are willing to work towards something that is totally different than what we've been having, then they're willing to do all the work too and really help. And I would not be where I'm at right now if it had not been for them. So they're the ones that encouraged me. They're the ones that say, Patrick, you need to do this. And I said, I had to sit there and think about it and talk with my wife and stuff, and made the decision. I go, okay, here we go. So that's where I'm at.
Don't you think that you're going to have a heck of a challenge taking on someone like Christine Drazen, who is a moderate that's complimentary to her voting record. She is a moderate. She's a moderate Republican. The Republican Party, a lot of them are saying that you cannot win this state unless you put someone up there who is a moderate Republican and not a MAGA. Would you consider yourself a MAGA Republican?
I like some of the ideals of MAGA. I don't necessarily call myself MAGA, but I'm not a moderate either. And that's something that we've seen. We've seen for the last 20 years moderate Republicans, and they've not won. I am a staunch originalist Republican. I'm not a Republican Party member, but I am a Republican that believes in the founding principles of our country. That's the Republican that I am. And I think a lot of people are too caught up into their political ideologies and their own personal ideologies that kind of harms the messaging that's out there. So that's why I'm kind of sticking away, doing my own thing. Not really. I do follow the other candidates. I've talked to a couple of them. They seem fairly decent people. I'm not going to knock them down. But we do need someone who is not a moderate, because we've had moderate for the last 20 years trying to run for governor, and they haven't gotten anywhere. Not to take any away from Christine Drazen and her close call last election, but I think
We're losing you, Patrick. Hello, Tokyo. Hey, Patrick, how you doing?
Whoops, not sure what happened. I'm doing all right. Not sure
That's
what
okay.
happened there, but we've had a lot of moderates and we've not gotten anywhere with them. So I am just being, the staunch originalist Republican that believes in the founding principles of our country. That's the Republican that I am. And I think that's what we kind of need to get back to, is that belief in, personal freedom. And that's the only way we can get back to that. Lower taxes, limited government, let people, grow and do their thing the way it was really originally meant to be. So that's how I am.
So you are a registered Republican, but you said something that I thought was interesting. You're not a party Republican. Can you explain what a party Republican is and how that's different than your independent streak as a Republican? Because you are a registered Republican, right? Okay.
Yeah, I am.
So clarify that for us.
Okay. Well, a lot of people belong to the Oregon Republican Party. I'm not. I'm not a member of it. I've just seen, too many cliquish kind of things. I'm not into cliques. I don't believe in that. It just feels kind of no offense to anybody. I don't mean to be cruel when I say this, but the whole thing just feels like high school.
Right.
And, I'm a mature 57-year-old adult who can clearly make my own decisions and everything else without, being told what my beliefs are supposed to be, because that's what the political party says it has to be. And I'm like, no, I don't believe in that. I think, we all need to have our individualism, because that's how we're made.
Right.
We're individuals. We're not drones. So I, so my, some people call it a small R Republican. Some people just call it a Republican. But I just believe in the way our country was founded, the principles and everything. And I just kind of want to restore Oregon back to those principles that made Oregon this great place in the country where everybody wanted to come. Now, everyone equates Oregon to Portland. You know that as well as I do.
Yeah.
And so, if you tell people from Oregon, oh, you're from Portland. No, I'm from Oregon, sort of thing. So don't Portland my Oregon.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things that that is an issue is, everyone has this idea of what Oregon is, and everyone equates it to Portland and Salem. And, there's a lot more to the state than just those two places. And so I try to keep to myself. I believe in my own Republican ideals. Long Thomas Jefferson, Locke, those are my guides for being who I am. The historical things that we used to do and believe in, is what I am. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, and that's anyone who's involved with politics and campaigning knows, just like what you said, that the party is divided into factions. And it's just not the Republicans. The Democrats are divided into a faction now. I mean, they've got some hardcore leftists versus the moderate Democrats that are going on over there. I mean, you listen to Fetterman, the only one who is making any sense, and the guy just went through a stroke recently, and it's like, gee, I wish the rest of them would suffer the same consequences and come out more sane on either side. But we have that problem here in the party, is that we do have the factions, and it's good to hear that you're kind of flying at your own level, and you're staying above that a little because it's hard not to. Christine Drazen is the perfect atypical example of that. I could go through a lot of other people who are in the campaign. You've got nine challengers now?
Yeah, there's
You know?
Danielle Bethel, Kyle Dyke, Paul Romero, Robert Newman, myself, Christine Drazen are the ones that I know of off the top of my head.
Right. Yeah.
Danielle Bethel seems like a fairly decent young woman, and I wish her the best. I wish all the candidates the absolute very best.
Right.
And I'm not into this mudslinging stuff, but I will definitely question motives and actions of people. It's like when Christine didn't announced her there at Gunderson, which I actually know people that work at Gunderson, and she announced her candidacy out there. She hadn't even filed yet. So I called that into question, and people are going, well, and I go, don't make excuses. If she was going to run, she should have filed already. And I tried to file all the way back in March, but they said can't do it until September. So I had to refile in September. So those are the kind of things that I will point out. I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying, well, okay, where's your SEL 101? Why haven't you filed yet? But I'm like that. I have a strong set of ethics and values that keep me driven and on point.
Good for you. And one of the things that you're going to have to face going into this and this mudslinging is that they're going to at some point want to do a candidate forum. Do you think that all of the Republicans in the primary should be allowed in every candidate forum?
Yes. Why not? I mean, they filed to be there, and they paid their money, or they've got the 1,000 signatures that they needed to be on the ballot. Absolutely. They should be there. If they want to opt out, that's on them. But, for me, I will be there and I will be prepared. I know my platform inside and out. There's not a question from it that you can ask me that I don't have an answer to. So I really feel that, all the candidates should be there if they choose to be there. I don't think it should be mandatory, but, I will be there if that's what it means.
Good for you. And we probably will be having one here in Coos County. I'll let you know. I'm sure they'll let all the candidates know, but we'll probably be having something here. We did the last time around, and it was pretty successful. We had a group here, the Citizens Restoring Liberty, that had a pretty successful governor's candidate forum. And so hopefully we'll get you out here for that. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, you covered and you touched on it a little bit, the logging. We out here in Coos County, we wouldn't have to pay much in taxes if the federal lands that they promised to manage and give us part of the proceeds for managing that land, because they harvest a good amount of timber off of it. They don't do that anymore. If we got that money, we would be a pretty damn successful county. Do you think that there's anything the governor should be doing to work with the Department of Interior, the Department of Agriculture, or anyone in the federal government in the Trump administration to start getting those lands working again? Can the governor do something to help out with this?
Well, yeah, and I think it's very possible that we can do that, because I already have plans to start a commission. I want the U.S. Forest Service. I want ODF, ODFW, ranchers, farmers, tribesmen. We have several confederated tribes here in Oregon, local businessmen, community members, and we can start to work with the federal government about opening these lands up and a proper way to, modernize our logging procedures and into a standardized way that will work, and so people can still make money from it. The way things are right now, logging companies are struggling to make money. That's the reason why the mills have closed in like Roseburg, Hines, Prairie City, John Day, the Malheur out here, and there's others that's looking at closing. I was just out in Elgin a couple months ago now, and had a good sit down with the mayor out there and the city manager, and really good people out there. And if they were to lose their mill, it would devastate Elgin, Oregon, and Wallowa, and LeGrand, and Baker, all these places where there's mills. It would devastate all these rural areas. And a lot of people live in these rural areas. I mean, what is it? Almost a third of the state lives in rural areas. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the things that we need to look at. And oh, there it is. Oh, there's a couple I didn't recognize, like Tim Euchre. I have no idea. But so there are. Yeah, I definitely want to bring back sustainable, renewable logging, because it is a renewable resource. It is one that, it's a gift that keeps on giving, and it's a positive thing, and it would definitely infuse quite a bit of money into our economy. Still, 5 to $6 billion a year is nothing to spit at. I mean, that's
No,
a
not
good
at
chunk
all.
of money that can help
It's
pay for
more than what
schools.
they're going to get from the transportation package, if I understand it right. Right.
Yeah. So, that can infuse more money into our economy. It will open up our ports to doing more exports. So we'll actually be creating jobs. Back in the 1980s, the forestry and timber industry used to have approximately 80,000 people in all of Oregon. Now we barely have 20,000. So we're like 25% of what we used to be able to do. And we're actually producing a lot less. Now we do export about 80% of our softwoods. So, but still, that's only accounts for, 1.5 billion of our GDP, which is not really anything. And it is something, but it's not enough. In other
It's
words,
not enough. I
but
mean, on the Elliott Forest, they've gotten the agreement to get 50 million board feet a year, and they could do 100 million easily. And that's the kind of thing that's frustrating to people like us out here, because we have the people to do it. We have the loggers to do it. They just, they need the work. So
you ready for this?
yeah, go for it.
We used to export 2 billion board feet a year. 2 billion.
Right.
Now we're barely doing 200 million.
200 million. Yeah.
So there, you can definitely see how much of an impact that it's had. From 2 billion down to 200 million board feet. So that's a significant economic impact to our economy.
And it would be huge to counties here in the southern part of the state, going up to the eye where they have most of this forest lands. I mean, they've got mass amounts of forest lands. I drive between here, Bandon, and Coos Bay, and it's nothing but forest. And it's like we have no housing. We have no affordable housing. There's no land, and I'm driving through this, nothing but land and trees to build houses. And I ask myself, how is it we live in a state with so much land and so much trees, and yet everyone's complaining because there's no affordable housing? It just doesn't make sense,
Exactly. Well, part of that problem is for our timber industry, for housing, it comes out of Canada.
Yeah.
So a lot of that money that we'd be getting from the timber industry can be back into revitalizing our rural communities, fixing our schools, fixing our roads and our rural areas, and truly revitalizing and getting us amenities back out here to the rural counties, because it really feels like they're trying to force everyone back into the cities, and a lot of people are just totally rejecting that. I would rather be poor and live in a rural county like Grant County, and and be happy, than to live in a city where I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that I don't know who are going to criminalize something against me, and do something stupid, and next thing I end up in jail or whatever. But that's the cities have gotten really dangerous, and I don't want my family to be a part of that. It's the reason why I live in Grant County. So a lot of our crime and everything, most everything that we're seeing is because of a lack of jobs due to overregulation and high taxes. That is where our problem is. And I have plans to lower taxes. I have plans to incentivize businesses to come back to Oregon. Plans to incentivize our logging industry again, which will help for our forest fires, from mitigating forest fires and
When you
creating natural
say
barriers.
incentivize, do you mean through the state taxing program? Do you mean lowering regulations? Can you go into a little bit more details for that?
Yeah, I want to lower the regulatory controls that basically make it extremely difficult to do logging. Um, right now, one of the people that I know out here in Grant County, he's trying to get Malheur mill opened up again, but because of regulatory controls, it makes it almost cost ineffective to try and open it, because of all the permits and everything else that they have to go through. Because right now it's closed, it's being sold off. No one wants to buy it because it would cost so much more to reopen it than it would to have kept it, you know, keeping it running. But unfortunately, it closed. So it closed November of last year, and they just finished up processing the last little bit of wood here a couple months ago. So now there's nobody that works there. Um, so these regulatory controls really put a damper on logging mills, and it's just totally devastating to rural economies. So that, you know, a lot of the stuff that logging does is it helps habitat, helps watersheds, it helps wildlife, tourism, recreation. There's a lot of stuff that the logging industry does that is ancillary to, um, that helps our forest to maintain healthy, and to help mitigate those fires and stuff like that. Last year, 11% of Grant County burned. Grant County is 4,528 square miles. Now, if you figure 11% of that, it's approximately 498 square miles of Grant County that burned last year.
Oh, wow.
We've got to stop, and it cost Oregon last year almost $1.3 billion to fight all the fires that were in Oregon. So we got to start doing something different with our forests, because what we're doing now is actually being more destructive than it would to be to log it.
So let me ask you, was that 498, was most of that on federal land, government land, or private land?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. This year I've been out on 6 different fires being a volunteer firefighter, and this year's been quiet. I'm not supposed to say that word,
Right.
don't say it because it'll jinx it. Next year it'll be worse. But
Right.
but we had a really kind of slow year this year. We had one fire that was approximately about 40, just over 40 acres. And it's not easy terrain out here either. A lot of our equipment out here in rural areas that are fighting this, 2 of our trucks are wildland trucks, are going to be 40 years old this next year. That's how old our equipment is. Some of our newer equipment is maybe 20 years old. So we're using a lot of old equipment on a lot of these fires, and and it is starting to really break down. And it's going to get to a point to where even house fires are going to be harder for us to fight, because we fight those too. I mean, rural Oregon firefighting is wildland and structural. We do both.
Right.
So um, I want to do something for the rural communities where they get newer equipment that can really help fight fires. And of course, when you have better equipment, it makes it easier to fight something like grassland fires, forest fires, housing, structure fires, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's things that we got to do that just can really just help a lot. in our rural areas. And I am a I am a rural Oregonian. That's where I live, but again, I am familiar with the city areas too. I'm from there.
I think with state that's as rich in natural resources as we are, to me, we would want someone who was understand the rural areas, because that's where the wealth is. And
Yep.
once these people figure it out, like you said, 2% of the population is feeding 98% of the rest. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because this is a big issue, and you wouldn't think that it would affect rural areas like yours, but it's actually affecting your area and my area, and that's some of these energy projects. Now, I don't have so much a problem with LNG, and I would support more nuclear myself, and I would support coal, and I support petroleum. I think that's both of those are reliable, and I think
Yeah.
they're renewable. And one of the things they're pushing now is solar energy and wind energy. And the solar energy, they're taking up a huge swaths of Oregon farmland, and they're putting up these solar farms. And I think that we're trading off one thing for another, and we're not going to get what we want out of these solar panels. And the same thing with the wind turbines. We're starting to find out that they are detrimental to the environment. They're detrimental to the wildlife, but yet they're part of the new Green Deal and part of the green agenda that our governor is pushing. What would you do for energy in Oregon? Because and I'm just talked about natural resources. I think we're rich with those types of natural resources, but what would be your idea if and when you're elected governor?
Well, we definitely have an energy crisis in a lot of these in a lot of the rural areas. That is a fact. All of our energy comes from we got, what is it, 14 dams on the Columbia River that starts all the way up in Canada and goes all the way out to the Dalles, or Cascade Locks is the last dam on the Columbia River. We have dams on the Snake River. We just removed 4 dams from the Klamath River down in southern Oregon. That does not help matters, because these are all energy producing dams.
Right.
It is a renewable resource. So, and I'm all for, nuclear energy and some alternative forms, but wind and solar cannot produce enough. It takes on average almost 10 to 12 years to recoup just the cost of building one of those windmills. The other thing about these windmills is that the blades themselves cannot be recycled, because they're a composite material, so they can't recycle them. Then you have the solar, the silica can't be recycled, but it's not necessarily hazardous waste. But the metals that they use to make these solar panels leaches in the ground and becomes toxic. It becomes toxic waste. I just learned the other day that they're getting ready to open a mine out there in McDermott, Oregon, and McDermott sits on the border of Oregon and Nevada. And on the Nevada side, they're getting ready to open up a brand new lithium mine. So, there's more jobs, and that's another form of energy, is these batteries, these lithium batteries that are also extremely combustible. So,
Right.
I think that, we have, if we start upgrading our dams to produce more energy, I think that we would have more than enough, because the Columbia River, Snake River, and the Klamath River are our 3 main tributaries in Oregon and Washington, Idaho, and Canada, that feeds almost 98% of all of the energy in the Pacific Northwest. So we have energy. I used to live in Rainier, and out there they used to have the Trojan nuclear power plant. Unfortunately, they found that it sat on a fault, and they got rid of it. Now Oregon has no nuclear energy at all. I think that we can bring back nuclear energy in places like Harney County and really rural areas. that would really kind of benefit, a lot of places. I mean, we actually end up ship water to California. We end up shipping electricity to California also. So California is buying our energy and water too. So,
Right.
California needs to do their own thing, and let us worry about Oregon, because not to say that we're just compassionate towards others, but we kind of need to take care of ourselves before we can take care of others. You know, um, there's a bunch of analogies that can go with that, but just I think that we can do a lot more intrastate with, you know, an energy source like nuclear that would really benefit everybody.
The and the thing that people may not realize out there is that any economy that has low cost energy is going to be a thriving economy. That's what we run on, and we literally
Right.
power ourselves. And the cheaper we can power ourselves, the better off we are going to be, and the more advanced we are going to be. Every society advances because they have cheap energy. And we need to do that in a state. And unfortunately, Oregon's one of the most expensive states for energy, and gas is a good example of that. Right now, we're tipping around $4 something for gas, and there are states out there who are $1.25. And what would you do as a governor to stop gas inequity that's going on?
Well, strangely enough, Oregon does not have any refineries. None.
Yeah.
So if we get some refineries here in Oregon, we can actually lower the cost of fuels in Oregon. And so yeah, I was shocked to find out that Oregon has no refineries. We have storage tanks, but we don't have refineries. A lot of the refineries pump from Canada and other states down the Pacific coast, and but yeah, we do not have our own uh, refineries, and that would employ a lot of people. That would put a lot of people
Right.
to work too. Um, Upwards of about 500 people per refinery. But again, those regulatory controls prohibit that kind of thing in Oregon. Um, can you imagine like an Exxon Mobil refinery out here in Oregon somewhere, and you know get like 3 or 4 of them? We could really supply the state and the West Coast with fuel.
Yeah.
Um, California has refineries, but they're out and away from the major cities and stuff like that. So why can't we do that here? Um, when I traveled across Texas, and I would see lots of refineries. I mean, you can drive down Interstate 20 or 10, and you see refineries. Um, you go over towards like Houston and whatnot, and drive up and down that part of that coast over there, and you see refineries everywhere, down all the way down to Galveston and Brownsville. You see refineries. Even out in places like Laredo, you see refineries. So that's the one thing is someone recently tried to compare uh, Texas with Oregon. Well, you're not going to incentivize people from Texas coming to Oregon because of the taxes. And I go, and he goes, well, in Texas, we don't have really any taxes because, well, they fail to realize that the oil industry pays the taxes in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon, we
Right.
have no such mechanism. Oregon has a lot of minerals and stuff that could be used and everything. So we don't have access to things like oil. Is there oil under Oregon? I couldn't tell you, but
There's
know,
not a lot of oil under Oregon. It's not known for its
yeah,
oil-rich fields, but there's a lot of, what there is a lot of under Oregon? Liquid natural gas. Or I'm sorry, not liquid, but natural gas that they want to
yeah.
liquefy and export.
Why couldn't we do that? They say we have enough oil and gas to last us the next 400 to 500 years.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
think we're going to run out anytime soon. So,
right.
but I do think that trying to get some refineries to be built here in Oregon would help a lot with our economy, and that is something I would want to incentivize. as governor, I want business to come to Oregon. I don't want them to leave. And right now we have an exodus of businesses leaving Oregon, and
Right.
that hurts everybody when businesses leave and close and cut back. That hurts everybody. Um, it disincentivizes people to want to stay in Oregon or even to come visit, because when you look at Portland and stuff like that, people don't want to come here. So we got to do things differently, and that's where real leadership will come into play. And I think I got the cojones to do it. Best way to put it.
Good. Good. Well, then we definitely need something like that. So right now, the president, our good President Trump, he's trying to fight against the woke agenda, diversity, equity, inclusion. It's something that is permeating all of the policies in Oregon. What would you do, or what can you do if you were governor, to try to eliminate a lot of that DEI, that wokeness? Because we really know it's not about diversity, equity, inclusion. It's about an oppressor-oppressed condition to try to divide the country, to divide the state. So tell us what your thoughts are on this.
Well, I think that DEI is just a feel-good type of policy. It doesn't actually do anything positive. I'm just one for believing, treat people like you want to be treated. That's true DEI. I mean, you treat people how they treat you. The golden rule. I was actually asked this similar question in a job interview, and I'm going, no, I just treat people how they want to be treated. If I treat someone with respect, I should get respect back. That sort of thing. But I think this whole DEI thing is nonsense. I think it doesn't really help anybody. In fact, it actually does more harm than good, because you're not taking people on what they're capable of. You're taking them on what, the color of their skin or whatever, instead of, actual
Right.
meritocracy, where people, are judged on the character of their job. And that is how I believe. I treat people based on their character, not because, well, you have to treat this person with respect because they have pronouns, or no, just treat people how you want to be treated. That's how I put it. But I think but to be these DEI policies have done more harm than they could have ever done that have helped. And I think we see that. We see businesses collapsing under DEI. There was a bank down in what was it, Simi Valley, or I think, that ended up nearly going bankrupt because of DEI policies. And so it's harmful. Doesn't help anybody, and I think it's wrong. I think everyone should be treated on the merits of what they're capable of doing.
And that would be nice. That would be a wonderful change for Oregon if we did that. Final issue that I want to talk about, and it kind of ties in together, and they call it homelessness. I don't call these people on the streets the homeless. I call them street criminals, because most of them are just that, street criminals. So what are you going to do about the street criminals and the crime that is plaguing Oregon right now?
This is a sensitive topic to me, because back in early 2000, I ended up, through no fault of my own, I ended up living on the street and of Tacoma right before my mom passed away. And so, I know what it's like. But you're right that there are, a lot of drug and mental health issues in the homeless community, and we need to address that. But we can't force people into something that's against their will, because then we become the exact thing that we're always fighting against. So we have to be really sensitive to the idea that, to the people who want help, and those are the ones that we should try. But being a veteran myself, I'm having veterans on the streets, that bothers me. there's a lot of mental health and addiction and everything else in our veteran population that live on the street, and they deserve the help in every way we can. But there's gonna be a sect of people out there who don't want the help, and all we can do is, do our best, provide them with a clean, safe place instead of, okay, if you want to stay here, absolutely no drugs. And we're going to have to, start policing it, because that's what we're not doing. You know, moving it out of sight, out of mind does nothing, and it helps no one. And I think we need to kind of hit this more head on. I don't think criminalizing it helps people, because I think it just kind of sets these people back going, and it doesn't build trust with people. And when we need to build trust and get to helping people, one of the things we can do by that is by getting people who have gone through a program, have gotten back on their feet, to become lived experience counselors, to be able to help the people out on the streets, because they've been there and done that. So I think that it's important that we start working towards that. We actually start helping the homeless people, even the ones that are criminal, or the ones that are drug addicted, and whatever, because it needs to be something that is done differently, because what's being done now is not. We see them moving to, these people out of areas that they've been in, and just kind of moving them out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah,
And
we're rotating them. Yeah, we're rotating them
yeah,
around from one town to another.
and it ends up making the problem worse. So we need to do more things head on, and start actual rehabilitation programs, start rehab to work programs, working with our local community members, and partnerships with businesses to, hey, we got people going through a program, once they get through most of the program, um, start teaching them a skill to be able to work a job, so they can actually start to take care of themselves again. That's the kind of things that we need to see, because just giving them transitional housing doesn't do it. Telling them that they have to go to rehab doesn't do it. We have to show them that they can trust the system that we out there, that they are going to get the help they need, and that won't be trust of the government. It'll be trust of the people who have been through the program themselves. That's how we build trust into getting these people the help that they need.
One of the things that I have found here is that, and this is true pretty much everywhere else, is that very few of the people who are the criminals are committing the same crimes over and over. Like 2% are committing 80% of the crimes, and you've got a high
Right.
recidivism rate. And the same people, you hear their name, you listen to the scanners, and you hear the same names every other night on the radio. This guy's going to jail. This guy's going to. We know them by name now. And
Yeah.
what can we do? To me, if you commit one crime and you're on drugs, and we pick you up, or the police pick you up, and you get cleaned up, and for a couple of days in jail or something, that I have no problem with. But what about these people who have been given so many opportunities, but yet continue to cause huge amounts of crime, which is causing huge amounts of monetary suffering for people who have to deal with their property damage and things?
Well, we need to start holding them accountable. We can't have this revolving door of criminal justice, because that's what we've seen. That young lady that was killed over in New York, Irina. We saw what happened from that revolving door policy.
Yeah.
And cashless bail. We need to get rid of these things that, well, they can't afford it. Well, then they shouldn't have committed the crime. That's how I look
Right.
at it. I know it's kind of harsh, but the crime needs to be punished. But one of the things I want to do on the other side of that is, kind of like for the homeless, start teaching these people a skill while they're being incarcerated. They're going to work, they work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and have Sunday off. And but to be taught a skill while they're being incarcerated. They're not being, some of them do go to college, get degrees and whatnot, but we need to make that more proactive in our jails and prisons, to where these people go, that is going to be conditional part of your release, is to be taught a skill. If you do not want to be taught a skill, then you're going to do the full time. I mean, there is not going to be any early release. There's not going to be any of this other stuff. You will do the full time. And and I believe in that,
Yeah.
I think if people learn a skill, they learn to, have that self-confidence and that self-esteem in themselves, that they want to do better, then give them the skills to do it. Um, so I'm a firm believer in that. I think it's something that we can do that would actually lower the crime, because then you're giving people an actual skill instead of, you know, the things that they're being taught out on the streets, like, how to sell drugs, how
Right.
to rob and everything else. Give them an actual beneficial, society beneficial skill to be able to be a part of society. Instead of that, would also lower our incarceration rate. It'll cost us less to so yeah, I mean, let's teach them a skill. I'm all for that. If you want to be a mechanic, let's teach you to start teaching you to be a mechanic. If you want to
Right.
be an artist, start teach them to be an artist. Whatever. I mean, there's so many skills out there anymore that people can learn to actually help themselves, so they're not being incarcerated, that they're actually being productive members of society.
Right, right. And I've seen a lot of people take the very basic skills and make great money out of it. I know a friend of mine who just was detailing cars, and it really didn't take much skill to do detailing cars, but yet he was good at it. And he
Yeah.
turned it into a really good business. And you know what I mean? He wasn't college educated, and he was able to build a business just doing that. And so it's neat, the things that people, if they put their mind to it, they can achieve. Um, I've pretty much covered everything. We've gone about an hour. I do want to put your website up here. This is your website, and Patrick Kopke-Hales, and you can find out more about him at this Patrick for Oregon Governor. I don't know. You may have wanted to shorten that. That's a little long, Patrick.
And yeah, after I did, I went, well, shoot.
Yeah, hindsight, right?
But yeah, I had to be careful because you know my name is awfully close to Patrick Starnes, and a lot of people went, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait, you're not Patrick. No, I'm not Patrick Starnes. But I do also have a Facebook group called Patrick for Oregon. It's also Running for Oregon. That they can also find a lot more of my information, because that's where I post most of my stuff. I am also on X, Better for Pat, and where I also post more information. I'm pretty active on both those, so that's where most people will find me.
Cool. Very cool. And this will be going out live. Well, actually, it won't be going out live. It will be on the recording. It will be going out next week. So we'll probably be shooting this out on Monday. And I want to thank you. Before I get you out of here, anything you want to say to the listeners or the voters out there?
You know, I vote your conscience. If you don't feel I'm the right person, I understand. I'm not going to hold that against anybody, because we all want the very best person to have the job. And I hope that I'm that person. I do have military experience. I have different job experiences. I have a lot of life experiences as well, that just have given me the wisdom to be able to do things and to see things in a clear manner. And again, I just want what's best for Oregon, no matter what. So that's kind of what I got, and I hope everyone enjoys what I've said, and they agree with me, and hopefully I win. That's my goal. I hope I win. But even if I don't win the governorship, I've already won, because I'm already farther than I've ever been in my life and done more than I ever thought I could. So that's something that I'm very proud of.
Nice. Very nice. Well, thank you, and we'll get you back on in a couple of months, well before the primary ends, okay?
All right, Rob, thanks for having me.
No problem. You take care.
All right, brother. See you later.
And that was my interview with Patrick. I'm live streaming from the headquarters, so if this isn't coming out as clear, if you're getting it unfocused, I apologize about that. I don't know why I'm having such problems with the reception here. The Wi-Fi here, I'm not sure what's going on, but yeah, I was watching that live stream and man, it got a little bit blurry. I appreciate everyone who tuned in today. I want to go over one of the questions that Stock Family Farm says. You can't just build houses anywhere. You need water access, and that is true. You do need access to water, but one of the things that would help that is to get rid of the urban growth boundaries. Urban growth boundaries keeps utilities from growing the way they should grow in a free market. If there's a demand, a business should try to meet that demand if they can. And governments have no need to meet demands because, well, they're the government. They don't have to make a profit. In fact, they usually don't make a profit. And so, yeah, that's one of those things that I think they need to change. I hope the best for Patrick. He's a really good guy. He's a really decent man. I think he's a stand-up guy. And so hopefully, we get a change in this state coming up next year, because what we got now is just so bad. And I don't know if you guys saw her talking about the climate change recently in that yellow rain jacket with the hard hat on. What a joke of a governor that we have. I mean, and all these guys, big men standing behind her, acting like, she's the boss. I guarantee you in the real world, the only thing she would be doing is cleaning tables. And so it's a sad, sad fact that people who are in politics are so, well, they're just bad people. They're not very well educated. They're not very smart. They don't have any new ideas. In fact, she keeps retreading all the old ideas. Tax. Find new ways of taxing you. We've got petitions here, and we're fighting against that gas tax. We're doing that petition, and it's been a really busy day. But the toll roads, they actually want to put tolls on our highways so we can pay for more of the same. And we've already paid for it. This is ridiculous. This is something we shouldn't be having to do in our state. And the only reason they are doing it is because, well, they're socialists, they're communists. They have to be able to give to their constituency, and to give, anytime the government gives, they have to take it from people who work, people who produce. And that's just the sad fact of life. Let's see here. Thought I had some stuff I wanted to put up here. Let's see. Let me go ahead and go over the websites for the different petitions if you're interested in. Vote by mail, NVBM. You can download a single signature sheet, mail that in. And remember, if you don't actually sign it in person, it's not a real petition. There is no petition that you can go on a computer and sign on the computer. This has to be a document that's downloaded, and you have to sign it and send it in. Or you can bring it here. I'll take it to the chief petitioner if you want to bring it here to the headquarters, the Republican headquarters, that is. And of course, we got Vote Before Tolls. Vote Before Tolls is another good one. And we got No Tax Oregon. No Tax Oregon is where you can find out more about the Stop the Gas tax. Really good stuff that's going on here. I'm getting ready to get another customer to sign. So how you doing? Are you a registered voter? And you came here to sign the petition?
For the mail.
Yeah.
I did the other one.
All the way over there. NVBM.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for coming in just to sign that one. Lady is here to sign the NVBM petition because you've signed the others, haven't you? Did you sign the toll one on the toll roads they want to put up? Yeah, they want to put toll roads on the highway and we want to stop them. So that's what we're doing here, folks. We're getting those signatures and we're going to keep working at moving forward in this county. We still need candidates against Boomer Wright's seat. Boomer Wright is not running this year. We don't have any Republicans in that race. We got one crazy Democrat who's there. He's a very liberal leftist Democrat. We don't want him to win. So we really, really, really need people to become candidates. We've got still 2 commissioners that are running for office. It would be nice to have several choices. So if you were interested, we'd like you to sign up to be a commissioner candidate as well. So all of those things are excellent ideas. No, we don't need tolls. No, tolls are trolls. We don't need either of those. And I'm doing a live stream. I'm not actually just talking to myself, just so you know. But I don't want people to think I'm completely crazy over here. And let's see, you guys know I'm sponsored, and I've got some really cool sponsors for the show. Let me add that to here. Oh,
Sign the other one, but not.
yeah. Yeah, have them come in and sign that one, definitely. That's a good one.
How long are you guys gonna be doing this for?
That one we're going to be doing until May of next year. So we'll have it for a while, but we're here from 2 to 6, Monday through Saturday.
Maybe so how late?
No, we'll probably be, well, we have to have them in by May, so probably be the late April, early May. Yeah, I can understand that.
Driving though, that's 32.90.
Yeah,
Because on your vehicle, it shows all these businesses, but it doesn't name certain.
well, we don't have a sign except for the Baptist Zion sign, and I don't know if it's appropriate to advertise for them, but we just got here, so we haven't had much.
Well, I was like, it's gotta be right in here, can't be anywhere else.
Yeah,
I'll make
cool.
sure anybody else. knows it.
And share on social media if you see us.
Anyway, in actuality, I have to.
Oh, that is cool.
Now I'm going to tell them your location.
Great, thank you.
They're like me, they're probably going, "Hmm."
You know what's a good thing to tell them? Breeze, rescale,
Yes,
resale.
it is.
Because I don't know, especially the women, they know where Breeze is.
They do, I
And
know.
they get a lot of customers over there. So we've been quite happy that we're next to them. Yeah, we're doing. And we may be moving, I know we'll probably be moving a couple doors up to the Century 21 spot.
Okay,
So it's just a couple of doors up. The gentleman who is allowing us to have this facility just loaned it to us until he rented it. And of course, we showed it off to everyone for the last 2 weeks, and of course it got rented. So we were successful. So yeah, next one I'm charging them commission on that. Yeah.
I know, right? You have the most.
So, but it's okay. We knew that. And yeah, you'll be all right. But thank you for coming in.
You got-
Yeah. Yeah, some goodies. They're like your grandmother's mints, you know, those chalky mints. Yeah. So good luck with that. Yeah. The ribbon candy. Remember the ribbon candy? You pick up one piece. That's true. Very true. You take care, man. I was talking to a lady who's coming in to get a signature. So that's me talking off in the air because I don't know if you can hear her or not. I don't have any microphones on. I'm just using the computer microphone. It's kind of low tech today. And I want to let you know that we are sponsored by 3H Tree Service. 3H Tree Service. You can reach them at 541-294-1800. For all your tree service needs. If you got trees that are causing a liability because the branches are hanging over your house eaves or over your neighbor's garage or car, 3H Tree Service can come in, take out all of that stuff with surgical precision and leave you a beautiful view. Wouldn't that be nice? You want a beautiful view? call 3H Tree Service, and they can take out some of those trees and leave you with a beautiful view. That's what they do at 3H Tree Service. And you can go check them out on Facebook. They do have a Facebook page of the same name, 3H Tree Service, and you got to check out their videos. Got a lot of really good videos. They do good work. Also, we're sponsored by Tom and Giggs. Shanna and Tim are great owners over at Tom and Giggs. Take care of all your automotive needs. They are 541-888-4660. That's 541-888-4660 at 135 South Shoneman Street in Coos Bay. They're right behind the car wash in the Empire neighborhood. And if you know where Empire is, you know where the car wash is. So check that out. They've got a lot of great stuff over at Tom and Giggs. This is their storefront, Tom and Giggs, lift kits, performance accessories. They can take care of your alignment, struts, shocks. You need a light bar, you need a tonneau cover. They got it at Tom and Giggs. And they got a lot of other stuff. They got remote control cars and boats and all kinds of really cool stuff over there. Last time I was over there, they had a huge stock of it. They just got a huge shipment in of a whole bunch of new RC cars. So if you got a kid who likes to play with RC cars, take him over to Tom and Giggs. And remember, Christmas is coming up. You see this car that's on the picture? Well, this is what that car looks like when your kid's holding it on Christmas Day. You see how happy this guy is? Yeah, because he gets to hold a really kick-ass RC car. And they're not little. They're not like the little ones we used to play with as kids. You know, remember I'd take like 10 9-volt batteries just to get the remote to work, and they would run out within 30 minutes. This is all better. This is way better. It's all rechargeable, new stuff, great stuff that you can work with. So check them out at Tom and Giggs. And they got planes, Hero copters, Tannerite, and you must be 18 years or older to purchase Tannerite. And they will ask you for an ID. My other sponsor is Herbal Choices for all your herbal needs. Check out Herbal Choices Cannabis at the herbalchoices.com website. Really good group of people. In fact, the owners of Herbal Choices are allowing us to be able to have this lovely facility that we're using. So I want to thank the owners over there at Herbal Choices. And you can find out more at herbalchoices.com. And they have 5 locations, one in Charleston, one in Coos Bay, one in Bandon, one in Reedsport, and one in North Bend. So all of those. Hey, I'm getting another person who's going to sign. Yeah, so I'm going to start talking. Yeah, that's you got more people in here. You guys are registered voters, right? Cool, good. That's a good thing. We always have to ask that question. Because at the fair one time, I had a whole bunch of guys standing in front of the booth, and they were all signing the Recall Governor Kotek petition. And it was a great time. We were all making jokes at her and stuff and laughing and yucking it up. And then I looked down, and these guys were from Nevada. It was like, you signed my petition, and you're from Nevada. So those kinds of things, very, very frustrating, but it's cool. And then they want to put tolls on our highway. Have you heard about that? Yeah, we want to stop that. We're against tolls and we're against trolls on the highways or under our bridges. Yes.
Yeah, I can't believe they wanted to do that. That's crazy.
So, and I was talking to Phil about this. He had a great point. You know why they're doing the tolls?
Yeah.
When we reject this tax, what do you think they're going to come back with? The tolls. And then they'll toll every highway up. And that's their backup plan. So, and anytime they create a policy, they're going to use the policy. So they're acting like, oh no, we're just creating it to put on the shelf. Yeah, no, you're creating it for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank all you folks for joining us. It's been a wonderful time. Please join me on Friday. We're going to have, I'm debating on whether I'm going to have the Friday night rant or not. It's Good Friday. I'm not sure if I should be ranting on Good Friday. Is it good? Wait a minute. It's not Good Friday. It's Black Friday. That's it. I don't know if I should be ranting on Black Friday. And I don't mean to be racist. It's the holiday. And so I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We will be back. If not Friday, we'll be back here on Monday. And until the next time, carry on, Coos County.
Agree.